Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. My name is Dan Allen. I'm your host today for our VoltMX Go webinar, and I wanted to share with you a couple of things before we get started. One of those is that we will take questions during the webinar. There's a questions tab in your control panel. Please put questions in the questions tab and not in the chat, please. And the reason we do that is that we're able to print those questions out later for follow-up in case we're not able to get to all of the questions during the session today. And I'm going to introduce Suhas Bhatt, and I'm going to let Suhas take over from here, but welcome. Hope you enjoy the webinar.
Thanks, Dan. Today's presenters would be me, Suhas. I'm the head of product management for VoltMX Go, and I have with me Matt, who is a lead of one of the components, design import. So we'll be going through what are some of the newer features of VoltMX Go and how it can help you extend Domino development. This is a series of webinars. This first one is today. I think the next one is on the 8th of July. That covers a bit more on the extending your Domino with Foundry and such. So before we jump in, we are going to talk about some things which are not GA yet and stuff. So we just want to have a traditional disclaimer that everything that you see is subject to change. Now, before we jump in, I'm not sure if everyone is familiar with VoltMX and VoltMX Go, so I just wanted to take a couple of minutes to set the context and then get into the features, right? So what is VoltMX? VoltMX is basically an industry-leading multi-experience low-code app development platform. So what does multi-experience mean? It means that from one single code base, you can develop an application for your mobiles, your tablets, your desktops, kiosks, smartwatches, anything. It can build both web applications as well as native applications. And it can enable both the citizen developers as well as professional developers to build great looking and engaging experiences across all the endpoints, right? And what is Go? VoltMX Go is basically combining the power of VoltMX along with the ability to connect to Domino and enable people to extend their Domino applications, modernize it, or if required, even move the applications from Domino to VoltMX, right? So it enables to be the glue and connect with Domino. So what is what can you do with VoltMX, right? So just to show some of the things, right? You can extend your apps, as we said. You can maximize years of the app and skill investment you have because the code that you have written in Domino can be reused and used as is, or we have Volt script and Volt formula and other features that we'll touch on. You can deploy on a cloud of your choice and reduce the risk and such. And you can, if required, alter the way the applications look. VoltMX Go includes all the capabilities of VoltMX and of Domino CCB, and it has a special pricing for Domino customers. What does VoltMX bring into this box as is it brings in a lot of capabilities, modern, like in bring in your augmented reality applications. You can have chatbots and conversational apps built in. We can now target wearables and other platforms and even have it working on IoT. And the overall idea is extend and modernize Domino applications, maximize any, future-proof the skills that we have and save labor in the process. With this, just as an initial context, now I'm going to jump into some of the features of VoltMX that is also available as part of the VoltMX Go since the initial launch of a GA that we did around fall last year, right? So one of the more hyped or more interesting features is VoltIQ. With the current scenario, everybody is very interested in AI and AI-assisted development. So IQ is basically our answer for AI-assisted development. Now, the first version of IQ was launched last fall. So what all does this give to the app developer, right? So at the current phase, it gives you ability to It's basically a chatbot that is in the IDE itself. It can answer any questions about the product. It can look into documentation, tutorials, and YouTube and other content about the product and help you, answer and specifically as to what you have to do and stuff like that. It can provide design suggestions, it can optimize your code, it can translate apps, and it can even do a regular run-of-the-mill kind of job, like automating your build and publish and stuff like that. Let's see a few quick demos of VoltIQ in action, right? So as we said, it acts as a chatbot, right? So I can open it up and ask it. You can have a proper conversation with it, and you can say, hey, what is my, you can ask questions about your project. It can say, oh, this is my version. If I need to upgrade, it can say, okay, how it can specifically answer your question, or if it needs to, it can give you links in the community, marketplace, or YouTube specific to your question, so that you can get the appropriate answer. You can just directly click it and go to that appropriate page. So basically, it is your assistant in the IDE, right? So that is one aspect of it, right? Now, let's look at another aspect, which is basically suggesting UI designs, right? So IQ, I can turn on design suggestions, and then I can start going ahead and creating the application UI as I would regularly do. But because I've turned on design suggestions, it's looking at what is being built and tries to guess, oh, do I understand this pattern? If so, okay, can I give you some suggestions? Looks like you're trying to build a login form. Can I give you some suggestions of what is already there in the marketplace? You can use that, or some component that is already in your project. And then it enables you to, just with a click of a button, import it and make it very fast and easy for you to utilize that, right? And it can pull in components from marketplace, which is in something every VoltMX and VoltMX Go developer has access to, and show you what is there, show a preview of it, and with a click of a button saying import, directly get it into your project and let you start using that. So that was UI suggestions. Now, a lot of us have to build applications which have to be working in different languages. So say we build an application for English, but then we need it to run in Spanish or German and stuff. I can just ask IQ to enable internationalization, right? So it looks at all the visual text in the application, right? Your labels, your button text and all that, all the visual text. And then it can then take those strings, go and hit Google Translate and get the translated version of all this text, put it back into the project and refresh it in literally in a few seconds. It can translate your entire application. And now we have a German version of this. So similarly, it can translate to any IATN supported language, whether it is Japanese or Chinese or Korean or all the Latin, everything. It can translate to anything which we have an I18 character set to. And once the text is translated, it will also give you what all were the text, what it translated to. So if you want to look at it, edit it, modify it, right? You can do that as well. So all this is just a button click now from VoltMX. It can also look at how the application code is structured and suggest ways of optimizing it. It can look at, hey, something is probably not used, so maybe you want to delete it, and it can suggest other kinds of optimization. So I can open up optimizations, and you can select which rules are applied. It can look at unused skins, unused components, unused functions, or other resources, templates. Is there anything which is an empty placeholder? So there are a lot of things that it can do. You can choose what all you want to. Some are suggested from a best practice perspective, some from a performance, or some from a style guide. You can choose which rules to run and such. And once it runs, it will give you a result. And once the result is provided, you can see the output. Like it says, hey, these are unused, I suggest you remove it. You can either choose to manually do it or just click this fix errors button by choosing the checkbox, and it will automatically do the correction for you as well. So code optimization and such is something that is also provided from the IQ, right? So this is one other feature. And yep. So with that, we'll move off of IQ and go to VoltMX Go specific features and look at some of them. Again, as I said, this is a series. We are going to touch upon or at least introduce every aspect that we are talking here or showing in this slide. But Matt is having another session which is going to go more into detail on VoltScript and Domino adapter in the next element of the series, which is on July 8th. And today we are going to focus more on the first touch design, import, and Volt formula. Okay, so let's jump in. So what is first touch, right? First touch is basically a way we wanted a simple way of, because there are so many components. You have your Domino server, and we built a Domino REST API to connect in an API way to all the features and functionality that Domino has. And we have Foundry, which is the backend middleware layer of VoltMX, and we have Iris, which is the IDE. So we wanted a simple one-click option of showing all of this in action, and we wanted it to work end-to-end. So basically, we wanted a test application in the backend in the Domino database. We wanted the appropriate scopes and schema to be created in the Domino REST API so that that data can be accessed. And then we wanted the Foundry application to be created and an Iris app utilizing all those services and a nice looking beautiful app. And we wanted all this to be done, one, to show how all this works, and two, to have a reference when you're trying to create your own applications and always have something that works as a reference instead of starting things from scratch. So with that idea, we built the first touch. And the first touch, as I said, is just one click and does all of this. So let us, and we added functionality to make this first touch. We took a simple app, a recipes database, and made that into an app. And we've added support for both mobile and desktop versions. And as we say, this is a continuous delivery kind of a model. We keep updating features as and when we build them so that you do not have to wait for a major version to see all the updates and such. With that, let me go to a quick demo of first touch, right? So once the Foundry is installed, you literally have a getting started button. You give a couple of things, basically the server URL where the Domino REST API rests with some user credentials, the appropriate credentials to be able to pull that information. It makes the connection, and it creates the environment, it creates all the appropriate scopes, it imports it, creates the identity service for authenticating to that, it creates the object service for getting the data from it, generates the data model and everything, and creates the mobile or web application and deploys them as well. And as you can see, literally in a matter of a few seconds, it is done, and you have your app ready, and you can just click the launch button to go ahead and start using it, right? So you have to sign in because it is connecting to the Domino backend via OAuth. You enter the user credentials and give it appropriate permissions so that it can access it. And once you do that, it shows the data with all data coming from the Domino backend. So, and this is a proper two-way connection. So you can look at all the data that we've got here. You can go ahead, search them, edit them, and stuff like that. So I can go to a specific item like a basmati rice, and I'm just changing it to Thai basmati. I'm changing some of the time it takes for preparation of that particular dish and stuff like that. So once I save it, it automatically uses the Domino REST API to connect and update those in the backend as well. And I can go here and look for the same thing in Domino, and I can see the appropriate thing here updated with the changes that were done in the application built via Iris. So this is to quickly show the power of all the capabilities that is coming via VoltMX Go, but without the app developer having to do anything, to just see how it works, right? And with that, I'm going to hand over to Matt to talk through the next few pieces. Matt, over to you.
Sure, thank you, Suhas. So, as was just shown there in the first touch application, there's a couple of different pieces that we have in communication flow between the end user application and the actual Domino data, specifically for VoltMX Go. So one of these key pieces is the Domino REST API. The Domino REST API is outside of VoltMX. It is actually a task that is installed and runs on your Domino server. Um, this can be used individually to access the Domino REST API and the Domino server information with OAuth 2 authentication. It uses the Open API 3.0 spec to allow for you to have that communication restfully with Domino. Over the course of Domino's lifespan, there's been 2 or 3 attempts to give a RESTful API access to Domino. Some of them were very early on. This is by far the best and most powerful and most secure that we have developed, and we're using here within the ability to access Domino from the Foundry servers and the endpoints from the end user. So this is incredibly secure. This maintains all of the NSF's access controls, users and groups, functionality, and permissions. So ultimately, that's controlled inside of Domino itself. This will be able to be installed on a Windows, Linux, or even a container version of Domino 12.02 or higher. We have 2 different deployments, one's on 12 and one's on Domino 14. So ensure you grab the right one if you're going to put this onto your Domino servers. Once the Domino REST API is installed, that doesn't mean that all your NSFs are immediately available to RESTful calls. So the Domino admin needs to make sure that they promote the NSFs that they want to be made available inside of the Domino REST API consoles. So these are all kept and maintained in schemas and scopes that are in the keep config.nsf, which is installed as part of the Domino REST API in the Domino server. A schema essentially that is set up for a particular NSF allows for when the Domino REST, the Domino admin will expose forms and views, agents, actions, keywords, and fields to allow for them to be accessed via the REST API. So once Domino REST API has been installed, that configuration is needed on the standpoint to allow for the NSFs to be made available. And then we'll set up a scope, which is another layer of security that allows for different roles to be able to be used to see different aspects of the application. Again, the security is paramount. We want to make sure that we don't modify anything that is not there, that is now currently secure and strong in Domino, and all that is maintained very tightly within the Domino REST API. So the next piece that we'll look at is the Domino adapter. So the Domino adapter is essentially the bread and butter of what creates VoltMX to VoltMX Go. This is one of the adapters that will be sitting on your Foundry server, and this adapter allows for you to interact directly with your Domino data as a first-class citizen in the Foundry object services. So because this would be included in the Foundry object services for a VoltMX Go Foundry installation, which we'll go into this in a moment, I'll show you kind of how we can see where this is in our demo here just coming up. But within the object services, it allows for you to combine other things that you can talk to within Foundry, therefore empowering Domino to have a greater influence on your business or your solutions. So you can interact with other relational databases, web services, SAP, other backends that you can bring objects and services in together and kind of offload those onto the Foundry server, do computations and enhance the functionality of the single data points that you have in Domino to make them a little bit more magnific in what they can do. So the Domino adapter allows for you to do all the CRUD applications for your Domino data, post, get, puts, deletes. We've got form-based patches. We can do gets based on the views. The other thing that's fairly important with the object services here is it allows for you to use offline objects. So as the world has migrated from being in standalone laptops and always connected to the internet to now being enabled with tablets and mobile devices, if the connectivity is spotty, or you jump into an elevator, or you happen to go around a corner where there's too many trees and you lose your connectivity, the ability to have offline objects resident in the device when using the application and then resync back with the server as soon as that connectivity is available again is paramount to maintain a seamless functionality of mobile and tablet applications. So this enables for that ability to be able to be done within those types of devices that are trying to interact with the security and the access control levels and the functionality that you have in your Domino applications. So that's why this is very important, and this is one of the key features of Go is the adapter. So as I just spoke for a moment about the adapter and about the Domino REST API, both of those things can be used individually in the next aspect of this. So the next aspect would be the design import of an application. So you can make single endpoints to make a call directly through the Domino REST API and make an action happen or retrieve data. You can use the Domino adapter to make calls through the RESTful endpoints of the Domino REST API and maintain that connectivity to Domino to update and manipulate data inside your Domino applications. You can even design things that actually make calls directly to this within applications using any type of IDE to interact with the JSON payloads that go back and forth through the Domino adapter. However, that can be time-consuming, tedious, and doesn't allow for all things to happen as far as your complete construct of your applications that you have running in Domino. So what we've put together is a component called design import, and what this does is it reads the entire Domino application, retrieves all of the design elements from in that application, including all of the forms, the views, the agents, the actions, the fields that you have exposed, and even looks at the navigation between forms and views that you have in your application. And it brings that information together and allows for those fields to be imported into a kind of a complete picture-esque view of that application inside of Iris. So this is done to build a construct of your application. It will provide for you, after the import is complete, the forms that you have available, the views that you've set up, the agents and actions that you have denoted in your application, already kind of put into a construct plane of an application for Iris. So this drastically reduces development time of trying to create a web-enabled version or a mobile-enabled version or a tablet version of your application from Domino into a different medium or a more modern experience that can be used. So we can go through that here in just a moment, and I'll show you kind of what those look like. First, let's talk about the new features that are available since its inception. So we've got support for uploading and downloading attachments. We have a summary note editor, which is a rich text editor that allows for you to do rich text editing and manipulations of rich text fields. We have support for actually importing Volt formula from your applications directly into your imported applications. So we do a first pass of any of the formulas you have in your application and translate that into a JavaScript rendition through the Rosetta.js, which we'll get into in a little bit. We can identify agents that you have in your application. These agents are currently just data manipulation, not necessarily UI manipulations, but things that deal with data and how to make those changes there, and we can run that through RESTful calls on Domino, affecting the application. We have native and tablet application support now. We've enhanced some of the forms generated by the design import, and we've also put into play additional themes so that you can change the look and feel directly after an import to take a look at some things. We've got single scope support, so you can directly import a single scope, and we want to make sure that you are able to continue on with pre-existing RESTful applications, and the wizard can recognize those things, and we optimize that workflow as well to make sure that unavailable fields are kind of hidden from in-configured forms. So let's kind of walk through an example of what that looks like. So this is an application. It's a golf course management application that we can take a look at. We've got a couple different customers, names in different regions that they are existing in, the context that we have there. We've got a simple form that we can add another customer, and this is a basic notes application. So if we come over to the Iris client, the first thing I want to do is make sure that I am connected to my VoltMX Go Foundry server. And then I can come in here and I can select to import a Domino application. This begins our wizard. I can create a new application. And what this new application does is it takes the project name of my Iris project that I'm working on and dynamically creates that project for me in Foundry. So I can go in and put in some of the necessary information that is made available when I expose this in the Domino REST API, which is my Domino REST API URL, the scope that we have configured, which is a single scope here, the client ID and the client secret, and then a service name that will be appended to the services that we're creating dynamically on the backend Foundry server, and choose next there. We do a couple of publishes through the wizard to make sure that the information is available and accessible on the Foundry server. But in this particular case, what we're doing here is we are creating an OAuth2 identity service. We are dynamically putting all that information and connecting that with the Domino REST API and the backend and build that service for you. And so once that service has been created, we need to use that service to retrieve the data design elements from the backend application. So we log in with our Domino credentials, and then we select the service that we're going to have as a login to that Domino server from our application, and gives us a list of scopes. Now, since we denoted a single scope, we only see that single scope, even if there are multiple applications on our Domino backend. This can be updated to have multiple scopes in it if that's desired, but this is a single scope example, since this is something that we have enhanced to. So you can select the forms, views, agents, and actions that you have in those particular displays inside of your notes application. What this does is this allows for you to kind of dynamically update what you want your application to be. If you've had an application that's been in existence for a while in Domino and you realize you don't use 2 or 3 of the forms or a couple of the views or certain different fields that were normally there, you can deselect those, and therefore your application will still maintain everything it's always had on Domino and Domino applications at the document level, but the application that would be created here would be a little bit honed to more so what you're looking to use in the current day and age. So what we do here at this particular standpoint is we take what you've selected inside of the wizard to customize essentially what the application is going to be. And we package up that information, those forms, views, and agents, keywords and actions, and we dynamically build an object service inside of the wizard engine here inside of Iris. We upload that and we publish that up on the Foundry server, dynamically building that object service. We make sure that with our recognition of what's happened from the design elements, which pulled in from the NSF, that all of those OIDs and particular attributes that are needed in the metadata that we create in the object service are properly affiliated with what you have in your NSF and what was pulled down from the design of the NSF. So once that's been completed, we build these forms and views and agent information. You can see on a summary screen here what we've actually created. And then when you select done, you're presented with a storyboard representation of that application. You can also look at the designs of it as well and see what we've put together. So if we go ahead and run a live preview of this application, we can check to ensure that all of our connectivity is in place. We can navigate through the application. We can ensure that we have the proper ways of navigating to go back and forth between forms and views. We can ensure that the Domino information is being pulled down from the Domino server and into the views that we've created. I usually go ahead and close the preview panel and go to it directly from a console. Since I did build this as a responsive web application, I like to see how it behaves in an actual browser. So I go ahead and I'll launch that in the browser. I authenticate with my Domino credentials. I see I've successfully logged in. And looking at one of my views here, I see that I'm getting my information from Domino. We can look at different regions here. This one has members in the East, North, and South region. If I run an agent on Domino to move from East to West, I see that the agent actually runs and actually changes the data in my Domino. So I'm actually running agents that were imported with the design import functionality. If I come over here to a new customer form, we alert you with some of the actions that were put in place if there was something that's not necessarily planned to be implemented. Some of the other actions go ahead and execute particular actions based on what we've denoted for them to do. So that information, that implementation has been put in place and is currently being enhanced as we go forth from version to version. I want to look a little bit further here into exactly what happens on the Foundry side. I told you I'd kind of go over what's happening when we build the application. So this is the application that we've created. We can see that we've created this identity service. It is OAuth 2 that we have built here. We've got an integration service where we have a couple of JSON and XML services that we've created that allow for some functionality, both getting design as well as agents and actions being able to run correctly. We see that we have built this object service of type HCL Domino. This is the Domino adapter. We look at the RESTful API URL. We make sure that we're using our identity provider to make sure we are secure with everything that we do here. I can come in here and do a get on the contacts here just to show you that when we do a request through the adapter, that we get a test for some of that information to come back and see that those values represented in a JSON format. So when I run that test and send it out, I do see that I get this information back. These are the golf course customers that I had back here. Similarly to doing a get for our views, when doing a particular put or post, we can do the same things through the adapter, which is being used in the functionality of the Iris application to actually put those into the payload and send those and update your Domino data in the back end. So that's being done through the adapter there as well. So one of the other things is to show you here that's new is inside here I can change the theme, and that changes everything in the application. So in your organizations, if you have a look and feel for applications, you can import 1, 10, 15, 20 different applications, however many you have, and you can apply that same theme across the board to all of your applications. So all the Domino applications that you imported through the design import functionality, you can have specific to what your company's look and feel would be. So now if we come into this application now, this has the different look and feel for this application, kind of themes and skins than was on the other application. So it's a very powerful thing to be able to look at that and see how that can be done for making things synonymous amongst your organization. A quick look at the next slide shows us how some of these different themes and skins have been applied. So if we look at the left-hand side here, the back panel there is the notes application. We see a rendition of, on the right, yep, the view of what we've imported into the Domino, the design import, and then enhance that with different themes and skins. Same thing for the application on the right. We have both mobile and responsive web applications that were turned from the kind of plainer looking notes application to the more modern view and displays of what you can see in the design import and manipulations with those customizations. So just in summary here, what we've done is we've gone through and we've read the NSF from the Domino server with design import. We've provided those design elements to the wizard to help us guide through importing that application and selecting exactly what it is that we want to have made available to the customers. So the design import wizard goes through and looks at the forms, views, agents, actions, and navigation, and puts together the whole application from what you have in Domino into a responsive web or a mobile application or a tablet rendition of what you wanted to put together there. So we can do this once for all those different channels and really give the multi-experience to the end user of the Domino application in these different channels that we can provide for them. With that, I'll let you go back to Suhas as he's going to talk a little bit more about Volt Formula and how we are making strides over there.
Thanks, Matt. So moving on to the next feature is Volt Formula. Volt Formula is basically the ability to run notes at Formula, as well as the open Formula, which is basically the Microsoft Excel's formula language. Combine both of them and have a JavaScript way of running it. And why JavaScript? Because JavaScript is the IDE, the code which is used within Iris, and JavaScript makes it easy for us to run it on all the different platforms that we spoke about, the phones and tablets and kiosks and smartwatches, everything. JavaScript lets us run it on that. So we ensure that the logic that you have in the notes formula can run as is, right? And so what we do, I'll show a demo of this shortly as well, is basically take the formula as is and let people reuse that logic. You can even edit, create new formulas from within the Iris IDE, and we automatically using Rosetta APIs convert it to JavaScript and run it, right? And what we have done since the original GA version, since the 2.0, is we have added a lot more implementation for the datetime category, list, user environment, and such. Document category has had updates and enhancements. You can now export VoltMX specific functions in API and export the whole converter as a module. We've made significant improvements to IntelliSense, which is like code assist, code complete kind of thing, and overall improvements to the code editor as is. And we also now display the file name for the custom formula extension. So basically, you can create your own functions, your own formula extensions as well. To give a gist, we have, since the original GA last August or something, we have added 156 more functions and several more, 300 plus almost 400 open formula functions and a lot more at commands as well, right? So significant updates have happened here. Now with that, let me move to a demo to show this in action, right? So first we are showing a particular at formula in Domino. So this is a very simple, it takes the first name, last name, and automatically creates the email ID by lowercasing the function first name and last name and adding a domain, right? So we can see this in action. We see the name of our lead developer for Volt Formula, Tony, and on clicking the autofill, it generates the email ID, right? So this is a simple enough function. Now we're going to take this and move to Iris, which is the IDE for VoltMX Go, and we go and create this particular, we add that function from there, right? So we click on the button action and add a formula, and we copy paste into the formula language section here. So as you see, as the thing is being written, it also converts it to JavaScript at the top, and you can see the result of it running right at the bottom. So you don't even have to go out of it to see it is working fine and all that and edit it. It is all inline, built into the IDE itself, right? So we are creating a new field for variable for the email, and then we are trying to add that, right? And we're adding the domain, and then putting this into debug. So basically it lets us get it in the logs as well. If you need to troubleshoot and stuff, it is very easy for us to troubleshoot any formula updates that you are doing, right? So now that we have this function, we can go ahead and run it, right? So we are applying the actual function at lowercase and at this thing instead of just using this. We save it, and then we go and run the application in a preview to see the results. So once it is built, we just log in, and then we go to a particular record and then click on autofill, and you can see the effect of the formula directly showing up here, right? And we can go to the logs and see in the debug that particular email ID that created from the debug statement is present as well. So this lets us quickly see this. We can do pretty much a lot of the formulas. I'll show a list of the formulas that are there. Now we'll go and see a sample of a custom function. So as I said, you can create your own custom function and import that as well into the IDE. And this way you can, any logic that you want to, you can recreate. And if you have a set of utility functions and stuff that you've done using formula, you can reuse them and across your different applications as well, right? So now let's look at the simple set email function, which is written as a JSON that you can see here, right? Which has the particular logic for this thing. And I go back to the register custom API, and then I choose that particular formula, and then this formula is now available for the IDE. And because I've registered it, it is available as part of the IntelliSense and code completion as well. So now I go back to the autofill and now create a new formula. And here I can directly reference the name that I gave that, which was the set email, the custom field, and it recognizes it, and you can see the code, and you can just now use it and pass. So as simple as that. Now I can go and run this again and see this. So this one we did not do a lowercase, so it is going to give the result back in uppercase, right? So we go back to the same record and then edit it and click on autofill, and now we have applied the new function, custom function, and you can see the result of that. So this basically lets you, reuse all the logic that you have written at formula in Domino back in this. And you can also specify whether you want the preferred API implementation, because there are same APIs slightly different between nodes and add open, that is in the open formula, and you can choose which one is the preferred one as well, right? So a lot of powerful functionality out there. So just to give a gist of all the things that we have done in terms of APIs for at formula or for open formula, because the list is too big, we just made a small video to show the amount of functionality that we have been able to convert and make it work with Rosetta. And with that, I'm going to move on to some of the enhancements that are coming in future. Old script is basically the ability to run the script, Lotus script in Foundry. I'm not going to go into detail in this because this is going to be covered as part of Matt's next session. And he's going to demo the old script working and in Foundry. Right now, old script is not GA, but it is available if you want to try it as part of early access, this is the QR code for it. We've already deployed 2 early access versions. You can get the Foundry version, which has this, as well as edit and create extensions using Visual Studio Code extension. We have dozens of samples of extensions and stuff already in the VoltMX marketplace as well, right? So if you're interested, please go ahead, give it a try today. And as is, VoltMX Go is available for free trial from HCL Sophie. Every customer and partner of HCL software will have access to Sophie. You can just go search for VoltMX Go, and this is the QR code for that as well, and click it, and you can get a free trial for up to 30 days. It will automatically create your Foundry server, Domino REST API, and Iris, and give you all the functionality that we showed today. You'll be able to import your NSF from your local this thing into that as well, and basically be able to test any functionality and basically try the software. As I mentioned a few times earlier, there is another session in this series on July 8th and another one later in July. But the next session is going to focus on harnessing the power of Domino through Foundry. We're going to look at more use cases and look at it from a Foundry specific angle, and see how we can use this functionality with or without Iris, right? So that will be a very interesting session. Please do join. We have had already quite a few sessions that we did earlier. If you're interested to go and watch a replay of them, this is the QR code for that. You can go and access that as well. Education and training, we have a lot of self-service content in terms of our Software U, which is our training academy. You can go look at it, and you can learn from how a developer can use it, how an administrator can use it. There is plenty of content for VoltMX core specific features as well. And if you're a business partner, there was an enablement webinar that was done a while ago. You can go and watch the replay of that too. So all the links that I showed earlier available here. Again, we have poster trial, early access of VoltScript, webinar series link, Software U, and the enablement webinar. With that, I'm going to conclude this and open it up to any questions that we have.
So Suhas, I see one question in there from Stefano. Would this also work when Iris is not connected to the internet? Stefano, that was around 10:10 early. I'm trying to remember what it is. Are you talking about IQ? Is that what you're curious about?
So IQ, no, IQ will not work without internet, because IQ is accessing something on our server, on developer servers, to have that. So simple stuff like what is already coded in will work, but the bulk of the functionality of IQ is dependent on internet.
Looks like there's a follow-up question about that, Suhas, about GDPR. And you're curious about how that is made private when communicating with the IQ server, Stefan.
Yeah, so IQ is not accessing anything. As I said, first of all, it does not collect anything about the user specific. It is only taking the user's question and trying to answer that. It is not taking any personal information. It doesn't even capture who's the person that is asking the question. It is trying to see, if I'm asking, hey, how do I do this in Foundry? It has to go search the internet, get the data, and give it back to it. It is not having all that repository and knowledge locally. So that is why it has to do that. But it does not collect any user specific information or send anything sensitive. So it is quite compliant with GDPR and stuff.
And Rick, you're curious about the Domino REST API being available for iSeries. Currently, it's available for Windows, Linux, and container environments. If you're running containers, K3s or Kubernetes, OpenShift on your iSeries, then you can do it in that manner. But bare metal iSeries, I don't believe that'll run correctly. And Dan, I don't see any other questions. Wait a minute. Tina asks, is there a list of unsupported NSF design objects that cannot be converted? For example, layout designs developed in R4. Tina, I don't have a list of that right now. That's something we can take back and see if there's something that we can put together that may be unsupported. Yeah, we'll circle back on that one.
All right, looks like you've covered most of the questions now, guys. So are there any additional questions that we might try to answer before we close off the session today? Please put those in the questions panel if you have one. All right, okay. Well, we want to thank you very much for attending our session today. We look forward to seeing you again on July the 8th for our next session. And thanks for joining. Bye-bye.